Hello everybody, this is Matthew here, and today I'm going to be reviewing two different models of the tank by the brand Torque. Right here we've got the Tank M1 sled, and over here we've got the M4 sled. So before we even dive into the features and the pros and cons of each of these, the Tank M1 here, it's going to be coming in at around $850. I have a rough idea of that number. I might be a little off, but you're looking in about the $850 range versus the M4, you're going to be looking at around the $1,600 range. So keep that in mind as we go through the different features here, that this tank over here is about double the price on average of this one here. So first, let's go over some of the features of the M1 over here. So one feature that I really like about the M1 is if you want a tank that you can take to the park with you that's mobile, maybe you want to take it to a buddy or friend's house, the Tank M1 is much easier to do that, whereas the Tank M4 is nearly impossible to do that. One reason being is M1, very easily removable handles. Let me try to get that back in. Whereas on the M4, your handles are going to be rigid. You'd have to take it apart to take the handles off, which you're looking at about 4 bolts, which isn't terrible, but not as convenient. Another reason this is much more mobile is this tank you can just easily lift up into your car. Whereas I'm not even going to attempt to do it on this tank over here due to all the weight we have on it. But it would be much more difficult weight-wise as well. Another feature I like on the M1 is you've got an area for your plates. We don't have any plates on this one currently, but it also features the same type of magnetic resistance that the M4 does, where you go from neutral, 1, 2, or 3 to get your resistance. In terms of hookups, let me get our belt here. The M1, it does feature much fewer hookups than the M4 does. Your only hookup on here, from what I can tell, is going to be right here on the front. So you put your belt on and you would pull it this way. Whereas on the M4, you've got 4 different hookups at least. You've got the 2 here in the front, and then you've got an identical 2 on the back. So when you think about it, what that does is this tank is less maneuverable. You can't really turn this thing around. So you need it on both sides, because let's say you go down the driveway and you want to come back, then you want to hook up on the other side. Whereas with the M1, it's not as big of a deal because this one is much easier to pivot. With the single wheel in the front, you just kick it up. Even if you had a little weight on it, you can still pivot this significantly easier than the M4. So that is a nice thing about the M1. Now, some of the cons of the M1 is going to lead me to the M4 over here. One big one is that your plate stack here is only so big. I would say you could maybe fit 3 or 4 of non-bumper plate 45s on here, whereas on the M4, you've got double the area for plates. Another thing would be is that on here, you've got your handles over here, which is nice, but if you come up here and you want to push it back the other way without having to maneuver it, you're getting at a really low angle. This is actually a handle where you can get low and push, but it's at a pretty unique angle, let's just say that. Some people might like that. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Whereas with the M4, you can push here and then immediately jump over here and have the exact same grip and push back. Again, that con is relieved a little bit with the fact that this one is easily maneuverable with the single wheel in the front. In terms of magnetic resistance, the levels 1, 2, and 3 here offer plenty of resistance. It gets a very good workout. And one unique pro of the M1 is I have really enjoyed the double handles here. So you've got your top wider handles, then you've got your lower handles right here that get a little bit more close to mimicking what you might do in the front there. Whereas with the M4, at least with the grips we have, you have the single higher grip. I would say both of these tanks are fantastic workouts. They're both going to get the job done. So it just depends really on your budget, whether you're looking to take your tank on the go, And my final verdict on this would be is if your budget is not a big deal about spending $1,600, you want a tank to use at home that's going to give you a very big challenge with a lot of weight on it, I would go ahead and go for the M4. Just because if you're not going to be taking it with you anywhere, the M4 does offer a lot more room for weight on it, so it can give you the bigger challenge. Now, if you're looking for a tank where you maybe have a group of people who meet up at the park and you want to train together, the M4 is not really an option. I mean, unless you have a truck where you and a group of guys could take all, or ladies, could take all the plates off and load this thing in the back of your truck, it's very difficult to take that anywhere. Whereas this one, it's very easy. You take the handles off, you pop it right up in your SUV. This could fit in a little SUV, no problem. Seats down, you can take it to the park with you. So yeah, that's the comparison that I have between the M4 and the M1. I hope this helped you out a little bit, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a happy holidays.